Unless the only media you've ever touched has been books, you've probably seen or played something that was accompanied by music. Hell, even comics are getting Spotify playlists for soundtracks these days. But nestled between the memorable surging scores and the needle drops, there are often moments of gentle plucking away at an instrument that is often not really unique or impactful enough to show up on the soundtrack album. To get a better idea of what I'm talking about, these are the differences, as I see them, between a score or soundtrack and background music. Background music is often sourced somewhere other than the main composer. It rarely appears on the official soundtrack, and it doesn't really punctuate important events or characters or themes. A score or soundtrack, on the other hand, can include licensed songs. It will always appear on the official soundtrack, and it will usually link to specific themes or characters. You might notice that this definition rules out most movies from the conversation because they typically have quite a well-defined soundtrack or score. Background music often goes overlooked and is often not given much thought, but that is quite intentional. Even researching this video was difficult because of how little interest there is in what background music does. So why bother making the video at all? Well, I think we're all more interested in background music than we think. A good way to measure the interest in background music as opposed to soundtracks and scores is by looking at how popular the atmosphere soundtrack videos are on YouTube. When writing, I often turn to this Elden Ring video. I love the Elden Ring soundtrack, especially the final battle, but that alone doesn't create the atmosphere of that world. When I think of the atmosphere of Elden Ring, somewhere in the back of my mind a bell rings out and there is a gentle sliding of strings. It's something my conscious mind can't even access. It's music, sure, but it's unlikely to get stuck in my head or be something I find myself randomly humming. These stretches of sound that you might call songs usually signify a location. Music representing a place, a character, or a theme isn't anything new, but if the filmmakers, game directors, showrunners, or whoever want to make it obvious, they will. The score will pick up into a familiar leitmotif when it wants you to build an association. An easy example is the Ring theme from The Lord of the Rings. Background music that exists purely to fill the space doesn't usually carry such close ties to the story. But with video game locations, the background music will have to loop as you explore locations or repeat areas, so it can't be too repetitive or overbearing. So it falls into the background, it creates an atmosphere, and it tries its best to go unnoticed so that it doesn't annoy you. All of Elden Ring's music, background or otherwise, appears on the soundtrack. It was all given careful thought and purpose, so it's hard to say that these songs, made to create an impression of a location, even count as background music rather than a core part of the score. These pieces of music are more than just supplementary. But the best background music, in my opinion, is the kind that almost fails at its goal of going unnoticed and makes you say, oh yeah, and I love the music in this area. It's something that perfectly rides that line of unnoticeable but pleasurable. Video games are the easiest example. Their unique structures offer an easy way to look into the phenomenon of background music. A better example than Elden Ring would be Red Dead Redemption 2. There is so much music in this game, but the soundtrack is a tiny 35 songs. In the case of Red Dead Redemption 2, some of the most important music is excluded and demoted to background music, such as the music that plays after visiting Down's Ranch, where the game takes a massive shift. It makes me wonder why some admittedly great music is highlighted and treated as part of the soundtrack and other, arguably more important music is left aside for the most curious players to search for. Can you guys think of any other games that do this? But we can peer a little further. Most video games and most movies have scores made from scratch and tailored for them. TV shows also need a lot of background music. Back in a long forgotten age where TV shows would run for 8 seasons at 25 episodes a season, they couldn't afford to have a composer score every single scene. So a lot of production companies have music libraries that they can access for background music. A lot of the time this music is simple and goes unnoticed. But it's not supposed to be noticed. It isn't supposed to be tied too closely with a central idea or character. For example, if you've ever seen House, can you hum a single background tune from House that isn't the intro or outro music? Let me help you out.
Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is almost always somebody screwed up.
But once he checked into this hospital, he was completely in our control. Our food, our pills, our everything. So even if you're right, no more gout medication. He'd either continued to deteriorate or he would have gotten better.
Now come back in a couple of hours and let me know if you could still remember how that tune went. Again, this is all by design. It makes conversations more engaging. It gives us a hint of what the tone is supposed to be. It can also aid in the creation of tension or suspense. I initially started thinking about this because of a song that kind of seems to have failed at its job by being too noticeable. This topic started gnawing at my brain from the most unlikely place. In Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, this little motif plays when the gang is looking for clues.
Digging. Hold on a second. According to my GPS program, this hole is only 20 yards from Fruit Myers. That would put it
directly under Crystal Cove Bank.
But this song was a mystery of its own. It mostly went unnoticed, serving its role as background music, just gently guiding the audience into a state of mind. But once I noticed it, I couldn't unnotice it. I thought it was so good it must have been on the soundtrack. But it wasn't, at least not wherever I looked. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is the greatest song ever made, but it's a weird case of being recognizable, enjoyable, and yet completely absent from the internet. So I went down a little rabbit hole. It wasn't on any of the playlists of the soundtrack, not Spotify, not YouTube, not even SoundCloud. So I had to dig a little deeper. For a second, I thought maybe it wasn't there because it's actually something that's been reused for a few Scooby-Doo shows. In all my digging, I didn't find anything that sounds even remotely close to it. Eventually, good old faithful Reddit showed me that I wasn't alone. This little piece of music caught someone else's ear and they were looking for it too. In this Reddit thread, I was sent back to SoundCloud where, lo and behold, someone had uploaded it. But it looks like they just extracted the audio from the show and removed the dialogue, giving it this warbly, broken quality. But at least now I had a name. Fittingly, this track was titled, at least by this user, "It's All Coming Together." And it seemed in that moment that it was all coming together. I was closer than ever. But then, nothing. Just a few more links encouraging me that I wasn't the only one who noticed this piece of background music. So for now, it remains a mystery. Is this good or bad? Obviously, art should be appreciated, so it seems a shame that so much background music is lumped into an audio library to be played sparingly by a few different shows designed to be forgotten. It's weird to think that there's art out there that exists to go unnoticed. It makes me think of all the music that artists want the world to hear but can never find a way to get it out there, while there's an entire industry dedicated to music staying hidden. But music, when it applies to other pieces of media like advertisements, films, games, and TV shows, has to serve a purpose. Scholars suggest that music helps us piece together what characters are feeling. For example, if they're doing the dishes with a blank expression, they're just doing the dishes. But if you add some sad music, we're given insight into how they feel. Maybe they used to do the dishes with someone and now they're gone. Or maybe they're the dishes that held a loved one's final meal. Or maybe they just really hate doing the dishes. On the other hand, if you add happy music to the scene, we might get the sense that they are relieved to be doing the dishes, maybe from the satisfaction that they finally have their own place, or maybe they just love doing the dishes. Obviously, music alone can't carry a scene or a character, and you probably figured out that music can help scenes yourself. That's not really new. But what you might not have known is that it can also aid retention and, more importantly, memory. Having music playing through a scene might help us recall those events later. Bear with me because we are building to a greater point. Researchers looking into how well we can recall things with music versus without found that we do recall scenes better when they are accompanied by music. They go more into detail about how much this is affected when music is congruent or incongruent with the emotions of the scene, but for now, all we need to know is that it does affect our memory. And this little piece of knowledge can be applied to real life as well. Another study, not really looking into film or TV background music, but rather background music in our tasks and daily life, found that having music on while studying, specifically classical music, makes learning easier and more productive. Background music isn't just something to fill the air. It keeps us engaged. It helps us remember details from conversations, and it helps the audience get the most out of a performance. A beautiful score is great, and it does all of those things too, but in an obvious cinematic way. Background music is the art that helps other art. It falls into the background, so the writing and acting can rarely get more attention than they would have on their own. So our little exploration into background music has actually taught us some valuable lessons. The first, your art doesn't need to be noticed to be valuable. The second, there's more to background music than we might think. And the third, unnoticed music affects us in unseen ways. We remember things better, we feel things more deeply. So stepping out of media for a second, consider how the sights and sounds around you are affecting you. Are they helping or harming your emotional state? Remember, we set the background music for our own lives, so set yours carefully. Even though background music can go unnoticed, it can have a big impact on any scene. Shout out to the mission music for Sodom Back to Gomorrah from Red Dead Redemption 2. That should have been in the soundtrack. It's present and meaningful, and it's a shame that it isn't given the notoriety. I know this one was a bit of a weirder, shorter video from us, but hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, let us know by leaving a like. All of our videos are functionally conversational. It doesn't end here. I want to hear what you guys think about background music, and if you know of any other songs that seem to have flown under the radar. Also, we're pushing for 1,000 subs, so if you guys want to stick with us, why not subscribe? Thanks for watching. See ya.